So we're in the middle of a very geschmacka agadata. We just did the story with Nakdim ben Gurion, right? The Maisa Nakdim that he provided water for the Oile Regalim, and they stopped the sun and Mamish to stop the sun in order to pay back, that he shouldn't have to pay back the Chayiv. We saw HaKadosh Baruch Hu stop the sun for 3 people, for Moshe, for Nakdim and for Yeshua. It's amazing. Nakdim and Yeshua Moshe. It's like, talk about making the Hall of Fame, right? It's Peloploim. It's unbelievable Maisa. Okay, so now we're up to Daf Chaf Amid Aleph. We're about where the lines get wide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines down. There's 2 dots. We said the city that it fell down in one place and the other place it didn't. And we bought a pasuk, right? We bought a pasuk. Tarti al ir achas, valir achas le amtir chalka achas timater. So l'chayra, you would think that one city is in good shape and the other one is not in good shape, but that's not the truth. Amrav Yudam Rav Ushteim L'Klala. They're both L'Klala because one city came down, but it came down so hard it wasn't useful, and the other city didn't come down at all. So the psukim now we're about to see where on the surface they appear to be negative, and in fact they're positive. Just like the pasuk we just saw, it appeared to be positive for that city. In fact, it wasn't positive for that city. For example, we say in Eicha, Ayushalayim L'Nida Beinehem. So we've hired like a nida, separate. So Amrav Yehuda Amarav LeBracha. It's like a bracha kinida. My nida yesh la heter, just like a nida has heter after this man. After Yerushalayim yesh la takana, there'll be a takana. So it's not like forever. It's a positive. Haysa ka'almana, the city that is like an almana. Amrav Yehuda LeBracha. Again, the parallel to almana, the comparison to almana is also a positive. Because it doesn't say you'll be an almana, it says ki almana, v'lay almana mamish. Elo ki isha shaholach pailul medina sayam, a woman whose husband went overseas, v'daita lachso leha, and the das is to come back. So right now you're like an almana, he's not there, but eventually he will be there. It's a positive. V'gamin nesati eschem nivzeu shvalim, and also I will give you what that you'll be despised and lowered. Mashma Klal Yisrael is despised and lowered and negative. Amrav Yehuda lebracha again. It's the bracha. What's the bracha of being despised? What's the bracha of being considered low? They're not going to make custom or tax collectors from you. They're not going to make policemen from you. So again, there's a positive, right? It's called a draft. What's that? What's a foray? A draft. When you get out of the draft, what's it called? The deferment? Yeah, deferment. I think the word is deferment. Hesh and I won the lottery in 1971, right? We can't hear you. Right? Hesh and I were both, I think I was number 5. What were you? 30.
Draft dodging back in the 70s, not deferment.
Well, Heshi was 31, but I had him. I was number 5. So all of a sudden, I went from being in college and nowhere to yeshiva I went to yeshiva. Like, you were in yeshiva. You never left yeshiva. I left yeshiva. And I was back in yeshiva. My mother said, no son of mine is going to be dead in a rice paddy in Cambodia. Anyway, I told my mother I'm going to kill some gooks. Anyway, V'hika Hashem es Yisrael, kasher yonur hakana b'mayim. And Hashem will go ahead and hit Yisrael like yonur hakana b'mayim, like the kana is waving in the water. Listen to this, guys. Amrav Yehuda Amarav lebracha. The tzushtel, the comparison to a kana is all the bracha. Damrav Shmuel ben Achmeni Amrav Yonason. My dichsiv ne'emonim pitzei ohev v'natzrois neshikos soinei. That ne'emonim, it's better. Wow. Okay. Anyway. Okay, so guys, ne'emonim pitzei ohev, someone who loves you, pitzi puts wounds in you. That's better than na'atzrois neshikos soinei. Now, what is na'atzrois neshikos soinei? I mean, look at Tosfos, guys. V'natzrois neshikos soinei. Pirish Klaimar. It's the opposite by those who that Benataris is lashon hafuch ba'atar, being turned over with a pitchfork. Porka alas, a pork, and not a pork. It's a pitchfork. Shemahapchin boya satvua, use it to turn over the grain. V'hachi pashti dekra. And here's the way you touch the pasuk. Pitzi oyev nemanim shu oisei l'toiva, a wound that what? That a loved one does to you for your good. I feel like kishemach chaveroi miskavan l'toiva. Even when he hits you, his kavan is for good. Uneshika soine heim lehepech sha'oisin akol l'ra. But the soine, even on the surface, appears he's doing good for you. It's not Torah. It's the opposite. He's turning it over. That's the first pshat. Let's go weiter. Not they say other pshatim that despising. Now, anyway, so what does it say? Klala, this pasuk is klala. Klala shekilu achia shiloni es Yisrael. This klala that achia shiloni cursed Kal Yisrael with yoisim bracha shebirchen bilam arasha is better than the bracha bilam aracha. Why? Achia shiloni compared us to a kana, where Bilam compared us to an eres, to a cedar tree. So on the surface, guys, you would think, wow, a cedar tree, it's so strong and powerful, it's movable. And Masha'enkin, a kana, a reed, which is very weak and blows in the wind, you would think that what? That it's a negative. It's the exact opposite as the Gemara goes on to explain. Ashilani Klum Bekana, Amalam Yisrael, Vihika Shemes Yisrael, Kasha Yonur Akana, Makana Zeh, just like this reed. It stands in a place of water. And every year its trunk changes. Vishrasha of Merubin, it has many roots in the water. And even all the winds in the world come and blow on it. They can't uproot it. So good, it gets bent over, right? It gets blown in the wind, but nonetheless, it doesn't what? It doesn't break. It goes back and forth. If the ruchais are doim, if they stop, it's still intact. Aval Bilma Rasha Bircham Be'erez, he bench Kal Yisrael as a reed, as a cedar tree. Shnemar K'arazim Ma Erez Eino Oime B'Makamayim. Just like an Erez does not stand in Makamayim, it does not have its own water source. V'en Geza Machlif, and it doesn't regenerate. V'en Shrosh of Merubim, it doesn't have many roots. I feel Kal Ruchas Shebaylam Naishas by Ema Zizlam Komo, and all the Ruchas come, they can't move it. However, Kima Shenish by Ruach Droimis, once a strong south wind comes, it's Ikerit, but Chasi al Panav and turns it over on its place. I still remember during Sandy, if you go to Marine Park, they had all these trees, big trees. And Sandy, they got wet the ground and the wind came and they went right over. Big trees. You went all along the Marine Park. They're still not grown back. It's amazing that how easy you would think a tree, right? You have these storms, right? Look at the tree. You see this big. You're all astounded as these trees that are turned over they're turned over when your power lines go out, right? But I'm saying that it's amazing. You had to read back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's still standing. The comparison, what to a reed? Where do we get the quill to go ahead and write a Sefer Torah from? It's full of mezuzah. We get it from a kana. So that's another example of the comparison of a chia to the kana as being a positive versus the negative. Sefer Torah v'Nevim Ksuvim. Tanrabanan. La'olam yehi adam rach kikana. A person should be rach kikana. A person should not be so set in his ways. A person should be flexible. A person should be malleable. A person should be able to go ahead and go with the flow. That we say. I guess that's the best way to go with the flow. And you shouldn't be hard like what? Like a cedar tree. Now, the great Rebbe Elazar, Rebbe Shimon, guys, spent 13 years in the cave with his father. It's an amazing Gedali Tanoim. So what happened? He came from Migdal Gadar. He came from a town, the Migdal of Gadar. He based rabbi from the house of his Rebbe. He was riding on a donkey. And he was going by the river. He was riding on a donkey and he looked at the water and he felt this tremendous feeling of simcha. Why was he feeling the simcha? Because he learned a lot of Torah. And his mom is full and he was feeling so great. And it comes along the story, guys, a very troubling story that begs for an explanation. There's Damaloi Adam Echad, Shahoyim Mechuya B'Yosef. He met a person who was very unattractive. Amaloi, Shalom Alecha Rebbe. The person said to Rebbe Elazar Rebbe Shimon, Shalom Alecha Rebbe. And he didn't answer him. Amaloi, he said to him, Reika, you empty one. Kama Mechuya Isai Ish. How mechuyo are you? Shema kol b'nei irecha mechuyim k'moischa. Many, all the people are like you. Amaloi, any day, I don't know. Go speak to the craftsman. Sha'ase'ani, that made me. Go speak to the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Kama mechuya kli zeh sha'asisa. Look how mechuya, how unattractive this kli that you made. Kima shiyad ba'atzma shechatas. Elazar Shimon realized that he was chayta. Yored min achamori, came down off the donkey. Nishtatich lefanav, he prostrated himself in front of this man. Ba'amalai, ne'anesi lecha, right? I was ma'ana you. I tortured you. I abused you verbally. Machali, be machali. Amalai said to him, Eini machal lecha at shetelech leuman shasiani. I'm not going to be machal until you go to the Rebbeinu Shleilam. Be'amalai, kama mechuya klizeh shasisa. Hayimatai lachrav. He was going after him at Shegiel Le'ira. They got to a city. Yatzib Bnei Ira Lekroi. All the people came out to greet Elazar Shimon. Vayomim Loish. Shalom Alechem Rebbe, Myri. Amalehem. So said that this man who was mechuya, Lemi atem kairim Rebbe. Who are you calling Rebbe? Rebbe. Amalai lezeshem etalach recha. That person. Amalehem. Imzer Rebbe al yabu k'maisa b'Yisrael. If this is your Rebbe, there shouldn't be anyone like him in Klal Yisrael. There shouldn't be any more. Amalai. Amalehem kach. Why do you say such a thing? Asali. So kach v'kach asali. This is what he did to me. So Amalai afa became machal lechash. Sh'adam gadol b'Torah. You should be machal as the adam gadol b'Torah. Amalehem v'shalchem areini machal. I'll be machal him because of what? Because of what you say. Bavashla, Rogalasas came. Bavardi is not accustomed to doing this. Person should be rach kekana vayikosha ke'erez. Lefikach zocha kana litol himenu kulmis lichdav sefer Torah tefillin mezuzah. Now, this whole story is very troubling. The little Taisus helps us out a great deal, right? This whole Maisa, top, tremendous. The whole thing. Look at the top Taisus. There's damalei odam echad shu mechuya b'yaiser. Mesech derech eretz mefarish the oisa adam hainu Eliyahu. This was Eliyahu Navi. Well, the toiv neskaven, and he's meskaven the toiv kedei sheloi yalga b'david, that he shouldn't be accustomed to doing this. It's very, very difficult to understand. There's a the Yavit said it was a shame. The Yavit says that this was a shade. It's a very troubling story that he would go ahead, and the lashon of the Yavitz is very, very strange.
What does that mean?
You shouldn't be accustomed to doing this. The Rabbi Elazar Shimon shouldn't be accustomed to doing this by calling people this. Now it doesn't say what. Yeah, again, it's a very troubling Gemara. Let me read to you the lashon of the Marsha over here. So Amalei Reika Kama Mechuya Mashakara Reika. Why did he call him a rake? That means the empty anama aretz. Efshar Shahaya Nidmaloi Kinachri B'Bnei Kush. This is not to be said over. I guess it's being taped, but I won't touch the word kush. But he says this was it appeared to him like a kushi. He appeared to him like a kushi. He was extremely black. Maybe all the people like you, that you all came from Ethiopia, they all came from Africa. Any day, I don't know. But son of Loima, I don't know what to say that they're mechuarim. I feel the beginnus behemoth to me leidiber hakosev. In other words, you want to say that he gave him Musa. He told him, you want to say I'm mechuya, right? So maybe it's something genetic. He goes, I'm not going to tell you about people. If the Torah doesn't speak about behemoth tameya, it says behemoth ain't tahira, I should go ahead and reflect upon these people this way. So then Rabbi Elazar Shimon realized his ways that, 1 second, So why if he's a Nachri, why would he speak this way? It's fair. I didn't see anything that really answered the kasha. I didn't see anything that really answered it. Again, you can read the article, whatever you want. I didn't see anything that really answered it. Again, but I think what happened was like this. Sometimes a person, when they're so full of themselves, a certain simcha, they can let go. There's no filter. In other words, like when you're exceedingly happy or even drunk, there's a certain, the natural filter that we have, right, goes away. I was thinking the Gemara, he's walking along, he just learned Lana Torah, he's riding on his donkey, he's looking at, and all of a sudden, pumped, he sees this guy, it was like a shock to the system, and he expressed something that normally he wouldn't say. And I think that's the muster that he got. That in other words, he got put in his place. You got to be You can't be like Erez. You got to be like, look how malleable this guy was. This guy let it go. He wasn't Michaelim, and he taught him a lesson that, you know what, you can't be so judgmental. You can't go ahead and judge people. You can't say anything you want about people. Rach Kakana is a very Chaim Shmulevitz speaks out in the Sichas Musa how that what it means is you're in total control. Now you're in control of the way you react to people. Rach Kakana means whatever happens to you, you control exactly how you're going to react to it. Whatever you're in control of it. The bottom line is that a person has to be malleable. Again, you can control yourself. Again, you're in control. Whatever happens to you, you can control how you react to it. And I'll tell you one thing: the greater that a person gives, if the person does something to you, that's how good you'll feel when you don't react. It's because you're miskaber over. No, whatever happens, it happens. It happens. It's a troubling Gemara, but the message is eternal. Okay. A city that has dever or a mapilis, and we said mapilis was like an earthquake, but the wall's going to fall down. Mapilis she'amroi, when we speak about mapilis, brios, the walls are healthy. V'loi ru'yos, she'ena brios lipo, they're not roy to fall. V'loi royos lipo, but not roy to fall. Now l'chayra, you just repeated the same thing. L'chayra, if they're healthy walls, they're not going to fall. Right, so it says, "Haiminaya brios, haiminaya shena brios lipo." What? Hainai ruyos, bad walls. Hainai ruyos lipo, they're ready to fall. L'chayr, it's the same thing, but when you use different shyness, obviously it's different things. Like tzricha the nafel machmas kavayu. Now, you have a tall wall that's healthy, right? However, it's roy lipo, good. Or inami the kaimi agudid in nahara. It could be a healthy wall, but if the base is wet, what's going to happen? It's going to fall down. Okay, in other words, in these cases, you would not be masriyan, guys. In these cases, since you can go ahead and say there's a reason for them falling down, be it their height, be it their base being wet, you would be masriyan. Kiahi ashisa ru'uya, this bad wall, the havi ben nardoi that was nardoi, havi cholef Rav Shmuel tute, Rav Shmuel would not walk underneath it. Afagav the kaimi ba'asra till seshana. It was there for 13 years. Nonetheless, they didn't walk by it. Yumachad one time, Ikla Rav Ada bar Ava, showed up Rav Ada bar Ava, Lahasam, Amle Shmuel Rav, Nesi Mar Nekiv. Let's go ahead and go around like we've been doing for the past 13 years. So Amalei Leitzrichna says what? Rav, we don't have to. Because we don't have to Idna now. Why? The Ikar Rav Ada bar Ava Bahadon. Right? We have Rav Ada by us. The Nafish Chusei that he has a big schusim. We don't have to worry. Very sure. In other words, Hastus, they held that Rav Ada was greater than Rav and Shmuel. So if you see Taisus over here, look at the third Taisus down. Amalei Dika Rav Ada Bahadi Dinafish Chusei. You get a little historical perspective on Amoraim, guys. Vitzarach Leimar, the Trey Rav Ada Have. You have to say there were two. Why? The Rav Ada Bar Ava Have Bimirava. In other places, we find Rav Ada being in the days of Rava. The Metzina becoming Mekaimis, Rav Ada Bar Ava, Rava. Of Rav Ada bar Ava, same name of Rava. 1 second. For Rav Ada bar Ava, the Hacha, Mashma the Huchavel, the Rav Shmuel, based upon the dialogue of the Gemara, he was a contemporary, a colleague of Rav and Shmuel. And Rava was much later. You know why? The Amar le Shmuel Rav, the Amar le Ha'ika Rav Ada Bahadon, but no Yadina, the Rav Yehuda Hayatalmid the Rav Shmuel. We know Rav Yehuda, guys, the famous Shinana, right? Short one. He learned by Rav, and when Rav died, he went to Shmuel. Right. The Rava having Nailid b'yom shemes Rav Yehuda, and Rava, he was born the day Rav Yehuda died, and Rav Ada bar Ava says the name of Rava. So how can it be Rav Ada bar Ava be a contemporary of Rav and Shmuel when Rav Yehuda was a Talmud of Rav and Shmuel, and Rav Ada bar Ava was born the day, and Rava, who was a contemporary of Rav Ada bar Ava, was born the day that Rav Yehuda died. So it must be the two of them. The Trey Rav Ada, the two of them. Okay. Finally, this Gemara is also difficult to understand. Like in other words, if you have schusim, so what are you doing? What do you mean? What are you doing? So we're going to answer the question in a second. Next case, Rav Huna, another more about Rav Ada bar Ava. So now Rav Huna was a Talmud of Rav. So says the Gemara, what happened over here? Rav Huna Havile Ahu Chamra, he had wine. Ahu Beisar, it was in a house that was in bad shape. Uboy Penuya, he had it empty. He wanted to get the wine, but he was scared to go into the house. Rav Adabarava Lahasam, he took Rav Adabarava into this house. Mosche B'Shmaitza, and they began to talk to him in learning. Adepanya, until he cleaned out all the wine. Busted enough, because as soon as they got out of the house, Nafal Beis, it fell in. So Agish Rav Adabarava, he was margish that Rav Huna did, that he used him to go ahead and take the wine out, that the house shouldn't fall in. Ikbid, and Rav Adabarava got angry. Savala ki hodam Rav Yanai, la'olam al yaman odam b'makam sakana. A person shouldn't go ahead and stand in a makam sakana. B'yoma asli nes, do for me a nes. Shema ein oisel nes. Maybe you won't do a nes. Imtim tzaleim oisel nes. Minaklim is chayosa. Maybe it's going to deduct from his chusim in olam haba, right? Amrav Chana, my crow. How do you know that there's such a thing as deducting? Ketoni ketointi mikol chasadim when we call it ms, right? Ketanti mikol chasadim mikol ms. Yaakov Avinu says, I'm small from all the chasadim that you did to me in mikol ms. There's a yisoid, fellas, that the Ramban brings ala Torah. It's a big question. Kadosh Baruch Hu tells Avram Avinu, you're going to have children, right? You take Bispen Abasarim, tells him you're going to have children, right? And then comes Avram Avinu and he says to the Pashas Lechelcha Eschel Gadol, comes along and by the Bispen Abasarim, and he says, Matiten li v'anochi halech hariri. What are you going to give me? And I go without children. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said in Pashas Lechelcha, Lecha me'atzcha eschel gadol. He doesn't believe in Hashem. What do you mean he doesn't believe in Hashem? How can you not believe in Hashem? Hashem told you, says the Ramban a big Yisayt. Says the Ramban, right? Oh, just a little bit more. He comes to Esav, he's worried. What did HaKadosh Baruch Hu tell him, Pashas Vayetzei? Ushmaticha b'chalash telech. I'll watch you wherever you go. God tells Yaakov, I'll watch you wherever you go. He says, Yaakov, Ketani b'chalash sadim, he's scared. So why doesn't Avram Avinu believe HaKadosh Baruch Hu? And why does Yaakov bring HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Says the Ramban, of course they believe HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but they don't believe themselves. Ein haftocha l'tzadikim ba'olam hazeh. There's no haftocha l'tzadikim in this world. Why? Shema yigrom esachet. When you told me, Avram, I'm going to have a child, I was like, this is my drega. But now as a result of a chet, I'm here. So Hashem, your word is true, but I'm not there anymore. Ushmaticha, I'll watch you. But I just, for 20 years, I didn't see my father. I wasn't mechabed kibbut of aim. I'm less. Of course they believe Hashem. They don't believe in themselves because they're worried they're going to lose up their schusim. You could lose up your schusim. Why? Because again, there's no haftacha, there's no guarantee because you're always worried Shem Yigam Achet. And that's the hezbollah over here. You're using, second, we're going through this. Who knows what's going to happen? How can you do it? He was makbid. Good, it's true, we were saved, but at what expense? Right? My question is, what's Rav Huna's question? Rav Huna who used Rav Adabarava. Rav Huna used Rav Adabarava. Guess what? Yeah? And the answer says the Marsha is he was at Tzaddik Gomer. If you're at Tzaddik Gomer, you don't have to worry about anything. You worry, but Rav Huna knew that Rav Adabarava was at Tzaddik Gomer, and then you have to worry. Guys, look back. Remember this dialogue in Yudches? We asked the other day, what's Yom Turainus? They went to kill Lulinus and Pappus. They threw him in like Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah. And this Rosh Marusha said, if you're like Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, God will save you. What did they say? They said, Amrullah, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, Tzadikim Gemurim hayu. V'royu hayu lasas lehem nes. They would Tzadikim Gemurim. It's roy for a nest to happen. Rav Adabarava was at Tzaddik Gomer. It's roy for a nest to happen that the house shouldn't fall in. Mamish the same Gemara. You just had it. If you're at Tzaddik Gomer, you don't have to worry. So Rav Huna, of course, Rav Adam himself can't say he's at Tzaddik Gomer, and he's worried about using up the schusim. But Rav Huna can be made that Rav Adam was at Tzaddik Gomer, and therefore he can bring him in the house, and for him it's not a nest. Royal not a nest. It's roy for a nest to happen to him. That's the Hezbollah Gemara. That's the based upon the previous. That's the Hezbollah Gemara. Now, what was the Adam? Why was he an Adam, a tzaddik gomer? So now we learn a little bit about Rav Ada bar Afa. The Gemara is going to discuss. I'm Rav Chana. My having uvda the Rav Ada bar Ava. What did he do? The ha'amal shalu talmidim. Rav Ada bar Ava. There's another Gemara that was Rav Zera, but Agamar says Rav Ada bar Ava. B'maha rachti yamim. Why do you live so long? Am lahem miyamai. I was never a makbid in my house. I didn't get so angry in my house. I wasn't makbid. I treated my wife with respect. I treated the children well. I never walked in front of a person who was greater than me. I never thought in learning in a place that was the shmutzadik. I didn't go 4 amas without Torah or below tefillin. I didn't sleep in the base medrash. Leishen is keva, not a set sleep. Leishen is aroy, not even a dremel. Leishasati I was one happy if my chaverim they made mistakes. Like karasi the chaverai b'achinasi. I never call my chaverim by nicknames if they were negative. I never called them by their surnames. Let's see the last Taisus here. B'achinasi pirish b'kinoi sheminakim say with the ben adam leganai. Let's say the guy called the guy Shorty, right? They called the guy Shorty. I never called the guy Shorty. You know, a negative, but a positive nickname that they would do. And what's the lashon of b'chanichasei pirish kinoi shem mishpachtoi, shem levaya? It's the surname. Shem chanikas always begin. Okay, so in other words, it's the name, that family name that you have. Back in the Gemara. Rav Huna also was a great man. Tell me some of the positives of Rav Huna. That's what Rav asked Rav Bar Papa. Amalei. So Rav answered Rava, Bini kusalei dachrinon. From his youth, I don't remember anything. But when he got older, I remembered. The whole yuma, the eva, any day that was what? That was cloudy, that it was going to go ahead and rain. Having funkin the the hava. He would go into a golden chariot. He was very wealthy. The Saile Lakuli Masi, go through his whole city. Cholashisa the Havi Reisasa, and any wall that was rickety, Havi Sasale, he would knock it down. If the master who owned the wall had money, he rebuilt it. Then they couldn't, he would go ahead and he would rebuild it with his own funds. The area of Shabbos, he would send the shliach to the shuk. And any vegetables that were left over by the gardeners who were selling it, suddenly he would buy it. And then what would he do with it? Throw it in the river. And why do you throw it in the river? Maybe he should give it to the Aniyim. So it's Zimnin the Samcha that Hayu, because if he would do that, sometimes they'd be Samich on him, they wouldn't purchase. And they wouldn't come to buy. And then they would go ahead, and when they would need, they wouldn't have what to eat. If I would do this every week, let's say 1 week I don't do it, they'd have to buy. But the merchants would either sold out or they want to bring so much merchandise because they didn't need so much.
Socialism.
Yeah.
That's socialism.
Okay, whatever it is, it is. Whatever it is, it's being muted. Yes, this is tomorrow. Throw it to the animals. Why do you throw it in the river? You can't feed to an animal. So don't buy it at all. So you know what's going to happen? People won't sell. If he doesn't buy, they won't sell. So he made a cheshbon to buy it and go ahead and put it in the river. Now, I don't know. Anyway, the chayra, you don't feed it to an animal. So what? Are you throwing it in the river and rooting it? So Rashi says if it goes in the river, it's going to wash down the river. Somebody else will eat it down the river, down the line. Rashi says that someone will eat it farther down the line. Ki havele milsa de isvasa. If he had something that was a good remedy, havimale kuza de maya, he would fill up a kuza, a cup of water. V'tolile b'sefer de beisa. You put it outside his door. V'oma kol the boy leisi v'lishkal. Anyone needs it should come and take. V'iki the amiyada say milsa de shifta havigama. He was an expert in the shade called shifta. V'havimonach kuza de maya. He would go ahead and put a kuza, a kli of water. V'dolile, he would pour from it. V'omar kol the tzarech. Anyone who needs this leisi v'layil. For the stocking, there shouldn't be what in sakona from what from this shifta. Ki avi korach rifta, when he would go ahead and break bread, have he pasach lebave, he would open up his door, zoma, koman the tzarech leisev lechel, koman the yitzrach yesev yechel. Imamish was the original. Everyone's coming. Amarava, kuli metzina mekaime. I'd be able to do everything he did. I'd be able to go to the shuk. I'd be able to buy things. I'd be able to throw in the river. I would be able to go ahead and take water. I'd be able to go ahead and put it outside my door. I'd be able to give remedies. Says Rob, I could do all these things except lavar micha, to go ahead and break bread and invite everyone in. I couldn't do it. Why? Because there were very many throughout the people who had need in Mechusa. Okay, we'll stop over here. B'ez Hashem, tomorrow morning I'll be saying daf. Very interesting. I got it. Hoping to see everyone who's taking off for Hanukkah there.